who were those, childhood influences, and how do you think your childhood shaped the person that you are today?
Okay. I think I had an interesting childhood. I grew up in a city called Ibadan in the southwestern part of Nigeria. I remember attending my primary school called Alafia Nursery Primary School, reputed to be maybe the first nursery school in Western Nigeria then. Still remember some of the friends, I had way back then. Quite interesting. I think about 3, 4 of them will still try to keep in touch till now. I then proceeded to my secondary school in Ibadan called Loyola College.
Wow,
and
that's a prestigious one.
we had quite a lot of, very popular and influential people.
Welcome to the Kingdoms Podcast, sharing the stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
Wow, we're live. Right. Thank you very much to a very, very special guest that we have today. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to the Kingdoms Podcast, and today I have with me a man who's got so many caps. He's a mentor, he's a high-level, accounting professional, but outside of being an accounting professional, he's a man who's impacted a lot of lives, and of course, my own life inclusive. Thank you very much, Tolu Adeleke. How are you today, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I'm pretty excited to be here, and it's a pleasure being here and listening to those nice words of yours. I just try to remember who the person you're talking about is. It's me, but
Wow.
it's nice, and I'm pretty excited to be here.
Yeah, it's the man, the myth, and the legend right here. And interestingly, this is the very, very first face-to-face session. I remember talking to you last year, right, about being on the pod, and I recollect that you said it was going to be more interesting. It's going to be fantastic having a face-to-face session. And I would say you manifested it, and it's finally happened. So for me, an attitude of gratitude is actually very important. So I am saying once again, thank you very much for, gracing the pod today. Finally, we make it happen. So that being said, the very, very first question I like to ask, people, on the spot is something simple, but can be quite a probing question, right? So who do you really think you are? Like, who do you describe yourself as a person?
Okay, I mean, my name is Tolu Adeleke. I'm in my 40s. I'm an accountant. I really don't like calling myself an auditor because I think I do much more than audits.
Auditors
Not that I don't, but it's just a pretty fact that I do quite a lot more than audits. Maybe I should start from my personal life. I'm married to a very lovely wife by name Tokwe. I call her Olori. And interestingly, she was my student when I was studying, for ICANN exams.
Oh wow, that's something I shared probably.
It's a story that I'll probably go into later. And I've got 3 fantastic kids, 2 boys and a daughter. That's on the home front. I said I'm in my 40s. I work with PwC. I'm a partner with PricewaterhouseCoopers in Nigeria, based in Abuja. I've been with PwC for about 20 years now. Before PwC, I think I worked at 2 banks briefly, and I had a brief stint as a lecturer at one of the private universities in Nigeria. That's who I am. And I think in terms of hobbies and my passion, a lot of people know that I do like football, and I travel a lot.
Like is an understatement. You love football.
That's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
Interesting. Man United. You're a Man United fan, and you guys won the FA Cup. when you were coming. The odds were actually against. And when you told me you were coming to London to come watch the game, I just went, and checked the odds. I was like, the odds for Man U to win is 9 or something. I hope this man is not traveling all the way to come to get disappointed. But
I've had bitter experiences. The last time I was here in October, when the C2 games, interestingly with another partner, in PwC, and a friend of mine who worked in PwC together. It didn't really end well, we lost the game. So I've had pretty bad records going to Old Trafford to see games. So I just thought this time around, not at Old Trafford, Wembley, but sadly I couldn't be in the stadium. Logistics issues, but I was just around Wembley. But at the same time, maybe if I'd been in the stadium, perhaps it might not have. By the end of the day, it went very well, and we're very happy that at least we finished the season quite strongly than the way we started it.
I strongly believe that it is essential to understand their childhood. And that's why on the pod I always, ask anyone who's in here to give us an insight, to throw some light on their childhood. So for you, like, what was childhood like for you? Who were those, childhood influences, and how do you think your childhood shaped the person that you are today?
Okay, I think I had an interesting childhood. I grew up in a city called Ibadan in the southwestern part of Nigeria. I remember attending my primary school called Alafia Nursery Primary School, reputed to be maybe the first nursery school in Western Nigeria then. Still remember some of the friends, I had way back then. Quite interesting. I think about 3-4 of them we still try to keep in touch till now. And I then proceeded to my secondary school in Ibadan called Loyola College.
Wow,
we had quite a lot of very popular and influential people who finished from the school. We had the great economist Patu Tomi. We had the late owner of Dow Communications, Raymond Dokwesi. We had a former governor of Oyo State, Lam Adesina, and quite a lot of other people. And I think it was in Loyola College that I started discovering who I am and what sort of person or what sort of perhaps career I wanted to have. Then it was more of playing with the boys. It was actually a boys' school. I was in the day section. We had the boarding section as well. But so we had a lot of interesting friends, and I still keep in touch with them today. I think about 3-4 years ago, I was the treasurer of my sets. Actually, old school
boys.
That's that's one of the other things I do, apart from work. So I finished there in 1994, and I did remember growing up then the sort of people I used to look up to, and I would say maybe at a very, very young age, I started reading books. Maybe introduced to me by my late father, some of the books we had at home. I remember one of the first books I read as a child was Why We Struck. That was the book about the first about the first coup in Nigeria. So probably Ademoyega. So it did introduce me to the political landscape in Nigeria and tried to sort of like shape my reasoning about understanding my immediate environment and the political activities of those days. And I think one of my greatest mentors, even though we never had that interaction, or someone I was actually looking up to then, was the late Chief Obafemi Awolowo. And I think just 2 words that captivated me about him, I can sum it up. Just his visionary leadership. Because of the visionary leadership act of a singular person, we had thousands, if not millions, of people being able to afford education in southwestern part of Nigeria. And I still, the last person I met that talked about him was my friend's dad, who actually said it, that if not for our influence, he probably would not have been able to get educated. So then his selfless service, and later when I grew up and I read so much about him, and I feel, or I mean I felt then, and I still feel he's someone I really, really hope to be like. So my childhood was shaped by those things, and I did remember when he died in 1989. I think his burial was sometime in May. It was televised live, and I think there was a public holiday then, and we actually stayed at home. I still remember that day was raining, just like it rained today, and that's how touching it was for me, and how close I thought we connected, even though I didn't know him.
Just to corroborate what you're saying, right? I studied at Obafemi Awolowo University. Wow. So it's really great, and he's somebody, anyways, I did not grow up in a generation where I would have had the opportunity to have known things he was doing like in real time, or that influence, right? And going to or attending a university that was named after a hero of that stature makes me appreciate that person. So
I was in Ife. I was in Ife for not few times. I used to come to Ife then. I had friends.
You went to the rival university, I think, UI, right?
We used to say that there are two universities in Nigeria, UI and the rest.
That is what they say. The rivalry is endless and ageless. Interestingly, my father went to your university.
Wow.
And myself and my brother went to university. Then he's always having this banter with us that he was the one that went to the correct university and we went to the juvenile university. But then we always having that banter, right? I think the rivalry between UI and creative is quite healthy.
Yeah. I would say so.
It's interesting seeing that emphasis on academic excellence over the years, right? Producing fantastic individuals and leaders like yourself and so many other people. So it's really great to see that you're cut out of that club. And for me, like Nigerians will say, I'm also trying to farms. That's our philosophy. It's really something that I really appreciate. So that inspired you, your early life. Now looking at the period of time between, say, university and your entry into PwC, there definitely was. Some things that happened.
My story is quite interesting. I remember when I was about taking my final exams. We used to call it WAEC in those days. I knew my parents actually wanted me to study something like perhaps medicine or pharmacy, because my mom retired as a matron from UCH in Ibadan. And they actually wanted me to do that medical line, but it was just something I knew that I wasn't really interested in, but I still wanted to do something, still closely related to science. So
you always want the brilliant kids to do science.
Check my jam bronchial at that time, and I realized, something I was close was agriculture. Then I think I wanted to do something like maybe agricultural economics. So I ended up doing agricultural extension and rural development, because I realized then that was quite adventurous. Right from my university days. But something interesting happened. I think I was in maybe part 2 or part 3 that really changed the story. My life trajectory. Someone studying agric in school, and I had a cousin then who was in, I think, Unilag or Ilaro, Federal Polytechnic Ilaro. And she was studying, I think she was doing ATS. That's the accounting technician scheme.
Wow, I did that well.
Then she called my house. Those were the days when we had land funds and all that. And we got talking, and she was saying something about lectures, and I think my dad overheard that conversation and asked me if I was interested in doing that. And I think that was in 1997, you know. So
why does he have to always be the father?
I just thought, you know,
because it was our father that pushed me to eat as well. He told me, "Oh, will you do it?" I was like, "Okay."
It was very interesting. I never really took it serious. You know, I just said, "Let me just give it a try," because my cousin and myself at that time were quite close. I mean, when we were young, we used to go to their place in Lagos, you know, for holidays and all that. So, I then said, let me give it a try. And I think I started around 1997. Yeah, I started my first lectures in 1997 at a center called Excel Professional Center in Ibadan. And I wrote my first exam, ATS 1, in March 1998. Wrote the second one in September 1998. And it was very interesting. I remember when I was writing my ATS 2, I was maybe the class rep. And I think one of my best subjects then was commercial law, and I started picking up interest, you know. So I finished my ATS and I went for induction in Lagos. It was at the National Arts Theatre in May 1999. I think it was around May or June. And I met one man, the legendary Akintola Williams.
Wow.
He was at our induction. I think he was like maybe 80 something at that time, and he stood all through. He stood all through. He shook everybody at that induction. He carried his bag, you know, by himself, shook everybody. And when it was my turn, I said to myself that because of this man that was going to be a chartered accountant, I made that vow to myself that day in Lagos. Fast forward, years later, continued with my exams, and I realized that, maybe I'm sort of like interested in this. Did the other levels, foundation. I think I did PE1 and PE2. Interestingly, because of the interest, you know, sort of like picked up in it and my commitment to it, I think in PE1, that was a penultimate level. I was the second best overall student in Nigeria. Then the final one, I was also the second best. And I think I was still in school. I was still studying agriculture. Then I got job opportunities while in school. I had to turn it down. And one interesting thing, I mean, my life journey has been full of, you know, some things that I could actually point out to. Finished my ICANN exams in 2000, November 2000. Went for my induction in May 2001. Because I was second. The person that came first did not attend. And when it was time to give a vote of thanks, I was called to come give a vote of thanks. You know, I didn't really expect that. Went forward at the Muson Center. My parents were there, very proud. I gave a vote of thanks. Something interesting happened as well. There was one of my classmates when we were studying ICANN. He was a lecturer at a private university. One of the guests that came with him was the vice chancellor of the school, and he told the vice chancellor that guy, or that boy at that time, I think I was like 21 or 22 or something, that was his classmate. And he said, invite him over, let's talk to him. At that event, I think I spoke with him, greeted him, and he said I should come over to the school. And I picked up a job of being a part-time lecturer at that school, you know, while I was still a student in my school. So
wow.
I did that. And I realized that was something I really think I wanted to do. And I still tell people that when I leave PwC, I think that's what I'm probably going to be doing. So I did that for like maybe 2 years, finished my school, qualified already as a chartered accountant, got a job as a pre-copper at a bank called Metropolitan Bank then before my NYSC. Then went for my NYSC in a village called Etitieda in Afikpo local government in Ebonyi State. I left a bank in VI in Lagos to go to a village where there was no lights and there was no water. Why? Because I'm very adventurous. I spent a year there. I met a lot of people. Some of the friends I keep today were guys that I met there. One of them still, I would say, is a kind of PwC. One of my best friends was my best man. We met there. So finished my NYC, came back to Lagos, was taken back in the bank. So I started working there. I then I think I did a test for maybe Zenith Bank, then PwC. Interestingly, I got to know about PwC while in Ebonyi State.
Wow.
My friend brought out the adverts and he said, he had always told me then that his father used to be the Auditor General of the State in southwestern Nigeria. And he said he could see some semblance between myself and his dad. That he sees me being an auditor one day. He just said it. So when the advert came out, brought it out, I took all the applications, brought it to Lagos, wrote the test. While I was at Metropolitan Bank, I think I did the interview with PwC. Interestingly, again, the offer from Zenith and PwC came on the same day. I didn't know. I was confused. Where do I go? Spoke with my boss. He said if I wanted immediate gratification, I should go to Zenith. But if I wanted to build a career, I should opt for PwC. So I think I did Zenith for about a month or two because it was time sensitive. Then crossed over to PwC. And I would say if I were to make that decision again today, I will still make the same decision, which I did in May 2004, and I started with PwC on the 1st of July 2004. And here I am, after 20 years, still in PwC.
Yeah, in PwC, you could literally be named Mr. PwC because it's difficult separating yourself from the brand PwC. But PwC actually stands for a lot of great things, in society. Myself being an alumnus of PwC, I love the philosophy, right, of the firm. So it's people centric and also focused at making impact in society, solving important problems, right, in society. So that being said, given your time in PwC Nigeria, like what are being important influences that PwC as a brand, as a firm, right, has been able to have impact within the Nigerian environment and the West African environment during your time?
Okay, thanks for that question. I mean, from a professional point of view, the purpose of PwC is we build trust and solve society's problems, and I think we've been doing that for over 170 years now globally. But coming back home to Nigeria, from the work we do, the sort of work we do, that also I see it as some sort of impact. At some point, I think PwC was sort of like focused quite a lot on working for the private sector. And we felt, if you don't work for government because you think a lot of issues, the risk and all that,
because of the high risk ratings,
how do we get to see the change that we desire to see if you don't get involved? And I think we started getting involved at some point, working for government, trying to shape policies and all that. And that has really been truly remarkable, working directly and also having alumni join government. I have like maybe three of my friends
right
currently working from PwC to government. So I see that as recognizing the sort of value addition that they could make. Apart from you working for them as a firm, then you've got individuals from the firm joining government in very high and senior positions. So that is one part of it in terms of making impact and doing your work and ensuring that the right things are done. Personally, I've been involved in a lot of government work, and I would say in terms of evolution, when I started doing this, I started working with government since 2007, and I've seen that value addition that we bring in terms of making things right. We're not where we want to be, but at least we are not where we used to be. So I know, given the right structures and with the commitment from leadership, things will get better. So that's on another side as well. And the sort of things we do from a corporate social responsibility point of view, PwC CSR, a whole lot of things in terms of supporting the less privileged, even collaborating with alumni and doing things like 5 for 5, choosing charities. I remember the
5 for 5
charity walk. The last one, we chose 5, 1 in Abuja, 4 in Lagos, where we make presentation to them, and cash and some other gifts, and also our impact in sports. PwC supports chess for change in Lagos, and cricket. I represent PwC, in things we do for the Nigerian Cricket Federation, and we actually work with NCF, that's the Nigerian Cricket Federation, and bringing these kids, off the streets from a school, introduce them to cricket and try to correct that notion that cricket is an elite sport, and you can get a lot of people to play because everybody focuses on football, and we've been able to sort of get Nigeria into that global map. And I think last year, it was 2023, where Nigeria was given some award as, I think, the in terms of youth development in cricket, they got, I think, the first or second award of being the best nation in terms of getting people more involved in the game. And it would interest you that we had over 100,000 kids over the last 5-6 years that we've been part of it. We just finished the competition not quite long, the under PwC NCF under 17 competition from different zones, and it would also interest you that we had people even from security challenged areas, states like Zamfara, states like Bauchi, where you have young girls of 12, 13, come to Abuja, interact with other people from different parts of Nigeria to learn their culture, learn different things, learn the values of ICC, that's the International Cricket Council, because it aligns with PwC, values of good character, care, empathy, those are the sort of things we do in PwC, and I'm proud, to be part of those things myself.
There's something we used to say a lot in PwC proud, right? Of course, me being an alumnus, right? I'm PwC proud. But fun fact, right? I used to play cricket when I was in university. But do you want to know the reason why I got involved in cricket? Because back then in uni, if you were in your 200 level or 300 level, you don't get free accommodation. As a sports person, you get free accommodation.
Most schools,
I signed up.
I mean, Ife was. It's still known for sports. Nuga games and all that. So Ife used to be very popular when it comes to sports. I remember I hosting some Nuga games when I was not even in the university yet, and I think I went with
in my time,
so it used to be very big, way back in the days.
It's quite interesting. Most people go for the popular sports like football, basketball. Okay, like a break from the norm. Let's do cricket, and then I started getting involved.
That's interesting.
It's quite an interesting sport, but it will be lovely to see Nigeria, advance, in terms of the global brand gains and global influence in cricket, because we see the Asians like Bangladesh, India, but in Africa,
Pakistan,
it's more South Africa.
And then a bit of the East Africans, the Rwandans, Zimbabwe. But I think we're doing pretty well. I mean, now I get regular updates because I know quite a lot of officials of the NCF. Our immediate past country senior partner is the chairman of the Nigerian Cricket Federation. So he's done quite a lot of work. I mean, and I regularly follow some of the competitions they go for, and we've been doing quite well. We've been actively participating in global tournaments now, like the under-19 series, under-20 World Cup, and all those things. I mean, and you can actually attribute the successes being recorded to some of the things that PwC actually did with the NCF over the years.
Well, I think for me, I think that's a fantastic strategy, right? They say catch them young,
and it's really
pipeline. It's a pipeline. You're doing the 8th grade
competitions,
that those 8th grade competitions will produce like the future superstars.
And apart from just producing superstars, I mean, it's also part of the things we do to take kids off the streets. When they get busy in doing things like that, and one of the things we always tell them is, you're not just playing cricket alone. You have to be committed to your studies, to your education. So by doing that, it gets them busy. And They always say that the idle hands is the devil's workshop. So you try to prevent. You're scoring 2 goals with one activity. You're taking them off the streets, preventing crimes, and also getting them actively involved in something that can better their lives and add value to themselves and the nation. I hope that in the very, very near future, we're going to be having global superstars. I mean, there have been some talents that have emerged over the years, from those competitions, and I'm very, very proud to have been associated, and I'm looking forward to the days when we start hearing the names like we've heard about the Marion Yanlees, of the superstars of old, and even the footballers. So we hope to start hearing this not too distant future.
Hopefully, we would see global superstars emerge from these fantastic sports programs. Speaking of strategies, right? We tend to employ certain, would I say, high level, or sometimes some things are quite basic to us as consultants, right? So these strategies that we employ in solving problems for our clients, I have noticed sometimes tends to extend into our personal lives, right? For you, what would you say are those, strategies, those principles that you have, utilized, in solving important problems for clients that have also extended into your own personal life?
I mean, for me, I would say, okay, in terms of assessment, I think it's people that work with me in the office and people that stay with me at home would be maybe better in doing an objective assessment of me. But from my own point of view and looking at the sort of things we preach as a PwC person, PwC professional, the thing you do for your clients, we call them the values. And I'll say one of the most important for me is empathy. Putting yourself in the other person's shoes, and respect. It's sort of like very important to me. I mean, I look at people, the same way, whether you're a partner in PwC or you're a cleaner or you're a driver, that's who I am. That empathy and care is very, very important to me, because when you sort of like, I tell people that I work with, for example, that you see people a lot of times with Lenovo and all that, carrying them in the office, but Lenovo is not what we sell. We deal with people. It's the skills, and you need your people to, maybe not happy is the word, but to want to come to work. They want to be. They should want to be there. They should want to feel like coming to work. My number one objective is to build that office where you want people that you want to come to work and earn their salary, and not people being first to work. So you need to create that environment, and you can always do that through having empathy, showing care, showing respect, challenging the norms, always making things better. How do you make things better? But that word, care, empathy, respect, they're very important to me, and I think I try. I try. I think they try as well. You elicit with a bit of humility, because if you're not very careful, the sort of exposure you have, especially as a partner, if you're not careful, you can easily cross the line. As an auditor, I used to tell people that there's a very thin line between you being assertive and you being arrogant, because you need to demonstrate your skill set to your client to show that you know what you're doing. But you need to do it in a way, you bring in your assertiveness, but you don't demonstrate your arrogance, So that for me is very important. And I try to see the people that work with me imbibe those principles in the way they carry out their work. So I would say that's a part of me that I try to take from that professional side of me to my personal life, laced with a lot of fun. But I also tell people you work smart and play very hard.
Interesting.